TP, what it do? It's your boy Claymore Rain, in and out like a robbery, right? Shout out to all my subscribers, first of all. Thank you for everybody supporting this channel. We're growing slowly but for surely. Just wanted to drop my 2 cents a little bit on what's popping right now. Some updated information with what's going on between Brian Norman and Boots Ennis. Man, this situation has turned out to be a very complicated situation, right? I mean, it's the way this is moving, you got to ask yourself, who to blame? Who do you point your finger at in this situation and call the duck, the one to blame, the problem child, however you want to look at it, right? I got a bigger question. What's the most important question to get answered in this situation? Well, look, man, everybody can have their opinion one way or another about this Boots Ennis and Brian Norman Jr. situation, right? Blame can go across the board, right? Blame can go on boxing in general with the way boxing is and the way the money moves and the politics of boxing play out. And of course, people trying to price themselves out of certain situations or people trying to get their value, right? So many different things. But what's the most important thing from a fan's point of view? From a fan's point of view, I'd say, or my point of view, I would say the most important thing for me is to see the fight, right? I'm not really concerned about what these fighters are making. I don't want to count their pockets. I'm not really trying to get all that done. I really want to see the fight at the end of the day. And if we get to the real heart of the situation, this is about Jaron Boots Ennis and his mission to become undisputed champion at 147 pounds and move on to 154 pounds and have some of the biggest matches of his career possibly in that division, as we have a packed division at 154 pounds with the likes of Virgil Ortiz, Tim Tszyu, obviously your Terrence Crawford, your Errol Spences, your Sebastian Fondoras, your Brian Mendozas, your Erickson Lubinsons, your Jamel Charlo once he decides to come out of his little hiatus. And you know, you just open up the 154-pound weight class division, close your eyes and put your finger on a fighter and say you fight Boots next. It's going to be a great fight, right? But it's not going to happen until Boots Ennis hits his goals, until he receives that undisputed championship at 147 for his legacy. He doesn't want to move out of that division. So Boots has a lot of decisions to make, guys. Now, Brian Norman Jr. made somewhere like $150,000 his last fight, maybe $200,000. So that means we're talking about the money being offered to Brian Norman Jr. is anywhere from 7 to 15 times the amount he made you know, in his last fight, right, where he was an underdog and he showed a lot of grit and was able to stop a puncher in Santillan. And the story is a great story, right? But ultimately, he is now the WBO champion, and Boots Ennis has aspirations of becoming an undisputed champion in that division. Some people want to point the blame, and blame can be pointed. I could point and blame at people if I really wanted to, but that's not really what I'm here to do, right? Boots has to make a decision if it's barbecue time or mildew time. He's either going to shit or get off the pot, because one thing you can't do in boxing, and we've seen it time and time again, is you can't force anybody to fight you, right? You just can't do it. And Boots holding an IBF title puts him in a situation where he can't be anybody's mandatory, right? So he can't play that card. He has no help in this game. Now, Brian Norman Sr. came out today, earlier on Ness's channel on Boxing Voice, shout out to Boxing Voice, and said, listen, $500,000 away, and we can get this fight done right now. We want the fight, $500,000, and we want this fight. Let's make it happen. Well, listen, it's a little bit of extortion, right? But if you're in Boots Ennis' shoes, you have to imagine that at this point he's thinking, it's either I do this or I give up on 147 pounds and I go up to 154, right? Because let me tell you what's not going to stop. It's not going to stop with Brian Norman Jr. He's going to go through this with Stanionis. He's going to go through this with Mario Barrios. From what I understand, he's already gone through this to a degree, right? And Eddie Hearn can only do so much. He has a bottom line, and he understands the idea of the return on investment, the money getting put out versus the money he's bringing in. He has to take his team into consideration. He has to take Matchroom into consideration. He has to take the zone into consideration, right? He has to take his own personal interests into consideration when putting money behind these fights. these fights have to return back on the money. So there's a bottom line. There's a budget that's been set out for this. Boots has been allocated a certain amount of money, and there's been a certain amount of money allocated for his opponent. And the money allocated for the opponent clearly at this point is not enough to move the needle with Brian Norman Jr. Brian Norman Jr. is a 23-year-old, 147-pound WBO champion. Now, people can look at it how they want to do. You can test his heart. You can poke at him and point at him and call him a duck and call him all these things. But that's not going to move the needle for Boots Ennis. Boots Ennis is 27 years old, 32-plus fights. He's cutting this weight. From what I understand, walking around anywhere between 175 to 190 pounds on any given Sunday. He's cutting a lot of weight to make it in this weight class. And if he's not here with real possibilities of becoming an undisputed, then why hang out at 147 pounds? Ladies and gentlemen, I know this music might sound like duck talk, duck sauce. You don't want to hear it. Somebody's wrong and somebody's right. But where's the justice in boxing? There is no justice in boxing. There's money in and there's money out. Right now, Boots Ennis has decisions to make. And the decision is, how bad do you want undisputed? And if you really want it bad enough, are you ready to put your money where your mouth is? $500,000, Boots is probably going to make somewhere close to about $5 million, $4 to $5 million this fight. Listen, $500,000 to finally become at least a unified champion at 147 pounds, maybe it's worth it. It depends. I mean, consensus would be that it is worth it based on how long you stayed in the division and how much you've preached that you want to become an undisputed champion. Me personally, I'm ready to see Boots at 154 pounds. What I don't want to see is Boots fight a Karen Kukadachian on November 9th or 2nd, whatever that date is. That's definitely what I don't want to see. And I'm pretty sure and confident that neither does Boots Ennis or any of his fans in Philadelphia. So in the spirit of achieving your goals, block out Brian Norman Jr. for a second. Open your eyes to the WBO title and ask yourself, how bad do I want it? What am I willing to concede to have that belt and begin this mission to become undisputed? Now, take into consideration that once you open this Pandora's box, it's probably going to get worse for you. I'm sure Stanionis is going to take advantage of it and want something very similar, if not more. But at least you'll have two belts to leverage the conversation. At least you'll be a unified champion at the table when you're negotiating. That can give you some leverage and maybe even build some demand, because also what we have to take in consideration is that Brian Norman Jr. is going to give us an exciting fight. We're talking about potential fight of the year. With the way Brian Norman fights and the way Jaron Boots Ennis fights in Philadelphia, this could really just raise everybody's market value after this fight, especially Jaron Boots Ennis. So he's got a lot of things to think about, but time is ticking. Doesn't have a lot of time right now. It's about to go into a situation where it's either going to be barbecue and put the money up and fight Brian Norman Jr., sit back, go in a purse bid with Kukadachian, or vacate the belt and go to 154. You guys let me know what you think in the comment. What should Boots do in this situation? Really not concerned with Brian Norman's side, because he's made it pretty clear what he's willing to do, which is walk away from his opportunity to become a unified champion and take his fight that he has against somebody I never heard of on November 8th on a Friday night. He has no issues taking like $200,000, $300,000, $250,000 to do that. But if he's going to fight Boots Ennis, he's made it clear what it's going to take to happen. At least Boots knows what he needs to do if he wants to fight. Let's see how he moves on and gets it done. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, guys, listen, I invite you to go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit your bell icon so you're getting alerts when all this content is dropping. It's your boy Rain. It's the ATB Combat Media Show. And at this point, we out.